Hi everyone, it's Mel from My Paper Oasis. But here tonight just to do a quick video on very basic cutting. So it's kind of like card cutting basics for beginners, I guess. So I just wanted to show you how to cut your card base and some layers. So nice and simple. But definitely for beginners who aren't too sure. Now look, I do work in inches. I'm sorry. There is at one point when I cut cardstock in half to make a card base that I'll use a centimetre measurement, but generally I like to work in inches. I think it's the quilter in me that likes that. But you could kind of easily convert to centimetres if you wanted to. Okay, so I use my Stampin' Up paper trimmer. This has a cutting blade and a scoring tool. So you just push the one that you don't want out the way. So that's the scoring tool. It's a light grey. It has an arm that extends here for longer paper and a little handle under here. So if you're wanting to cut 12 by 12, you can do that. I don't need that for this occasion, so I'm just going to pop that away. Okay, so what I wanted to show you was two basic card folds. So this is a standard size card that will fit in a regular C6 envelope. So I've just got some rich razzleberry here, and there are two ways you can cut your card to make a card base. Down the center on the short side, so down the center, or down the center on the long side. So if you're cutting on the long side, you're going to position your cardstock. Now this is the only time I will use a centimetre measurement because it is the middle of this cardstock. So I will cut this at 14.9 centimetres. So there's my 14.9 is all the way up here. Very, very close to the 5 7/8 inch mark. Okay, but 14.9 centimetres is what will give you your half card. So just bump your long edge up along the top of your cutter, and you're just going to literally slice straight down, and that will give you two halves, and they will make your first card base. So if I fold this, I'm going to fold this one over in half. I line up my edges, and then I will, it's a bit hard while I'm standing up, so I'm just going to lie down. So lining up my edges, and then I'm literally just going to press my card base down. Now if you have a bone folder, great way to get a nice sharp crease in your card. So this card you can either have so that it opens sideways here, or you can turn it into more of a landscape view so that it flips up and open this way. So that is one card base. A second card base, if you prefer your card to open at a different, like a long end, you're going to use the short side of your cardstock. So you're going to pop it in your trimmer, and this time you're going to cut it at 4 1/8 inch. In Australian measurements, our cardstock is 8 1/4 long across the top here. So 4 1/8 inch, which is this little mark after the 4. Not the tiny mark, that's a 16th. The next one on our Stampin' Up trimmer is the 8th. So if we line it up with that, that will cut this piece of cardstock in half. So every pack of Stampin' Up paper, you get 24 sheets of cardstock. That's enough to make 48 card bases. So this card base, you're going to fold in half again. So just like we did before, line up your edges so that they're nice and flat, and then folding down. So then this card you can have open from the top. This is like a tent fold, or you can have it on the side and it will open this way. So it just depends on your preference for how you like your cards to open, as well as the look that you're trying to achieve. You may want a kind of longer view picture here. So they're your two basic card bases that you can create by cutting your cardstock. Now for the first layer, depending on how much you want to see on your first layer of this under colour, this colour underneath will depend on the size that you cut. From here, I adjust my cutting to go 1/4 inch in, or 1/8 inch in from what we've just cut. So I've got some sweet sugar plum for a little bit of a contrast to show you, and I always cut on my long edge first. So I use my long edge, and if I'm going to cut a nice big card layer for this one, I'm going to take it from Now this is where I'll go back to inches. I'll take it from the 5 7/8 and I will cut it at 5 3/4. So 5 3/4 down, and then turn this card piece around, and then I'm just going to drop it 1/8 of an inch again to 4 inches. So if I do that, you're going to end up with a piece that gives you very little space around it. It'll only give you 1/8 of an inch around your card. So can you see that? Okay, if I wanted a bigger base than that, or leave like so you can see more of this color underneath, I would cut my long side, my short side at, where are we, 5 5/8. This is my kind of favorite top layer. 5 5/8 I would cut. So pretending that was a whole piece of cardstock, 5 5/8, then I would flip it and I would drop it another 1/8 of an inch here. So 5 5/8 is an 1/8 of an inch off 5 3/4, and 3 7/8 is an 1/8 off the 4-inch mark. So there we go. And as you'll see, this one gives you a much bigger showing of the colour underneath. So you just keep dropping your layers down like that to create your card layers. Now, if I was going to do a white layer on this, same principle. I'm going to cut the long side first and get my long piece sorted first. When you're cutting your long piece first, you should be able to, you're almost dividing this into 4. So you should be able to get 4 fronts out of your piece of cardstock for a regular card base. So it's not wasting any cardstock. So this one I would then go and drop it down to 5 1/2 inches. 5 1/2 inches long, and then 3 3/4 inches wide. And then you'll see that that will give you another layer just on top of your sweet sugar plum. So you'll see an edge of the sweet sugar plum. Now you can also do that smaller again if you wanted to. So if you wanted to, you could then cut this at 5 3/8, which is this mark just before the 5 1/2. So you could cut it at 5 3/8, which would be this way first from our long cardstock. So long piece of cardstock, 5 3/8. And then turn it round, and this one you would cut at 3 5/8, which is that bigger dash just after the 1/2 inch mark. And that will give you a layer that comes down even more. And of course, you know, you could do that with any color. It doesn't have to be the white. You could do that with any color layer as you're coming down. And when you layer them up, I probably should have done them in completely different colors, and then you would have really been able to see the difference. But as you go down, you end up with different size layers for different size for your different card needs, for whatever you want. So sometimes you only want a tiny bit of the layer underneath showing, like 1/8 of an inch, and sometimes you want the 1/4 of an inch showing. It's entirely up to the designer's choice. So they're my favorite size layers that I use for card layers, and I will pop all this information on my blog with the measurements so that you can see what card layers I like using. And if you wanted to go smaller than that, you just keep dropping a 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch down, and once you've done a few, you really get the knack of it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you make the best use of your cardstock, and yeah, enjoy crafting. Okay, bye.